Welcome back to the channel, guys. Big Dog Brett. Thanks so much for tuning in. Today, I'm going to be talking about UGA's 2019 season, my predictions on where I think we're going to end up, and their size. How do they stack up? Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll be right back. Welcome back, guys. So, the 2019 season holds a lot of hopes for UGA fans. There is a ton of things that UGA fans are looking forward to. One of those things is really kind of the progression that UGA has went through to get an offensive line, to get a defensive line, to get players in the right positions in the right places. Yes, they've lost some players, but there's a ton of talent returning, and we're going to talk about that a little bit as we go along. So one of the things that is really important to discuss is the size of the offensive and defensive line. And I'm going to go through that here with you guys real quick. Looking at the defensive line, these guys are huge, man. I mean, they're just huge. All right, offensive line. Let's just talk about the offensive line. The defense, we'll worry about that later. So the O-line. They only have one guy on the entire team, one guy who is under 6'3". One. Everybody else is at least 6'4" and over 300 pounds. Also, the guy who's 6'3" is the only guy that is under 300 pounds, and he's 290. And that is not Cade Mays. It is Clay Webb. So I'm going to talk through each one based off of their year. So if it's a senior, we're going to talk about those guys first, junior, freshman, junior, sophomore, whatever, so forth, so on. You get the idea. So let's talk. The seniors is going to take a long time to talk about, especially on the O-line. You ready? DeMarcus Hayes, 6'5", 305 pounds, senior. That's it. That's the only one. So now UGA did lose a little bit of talent overall, but the defensive, offensive line are pretty much the guys that's been playing. This year, our juniors, and this is the junior list: Ben Cleveland, Dan Gothard, Solomon Kinley, Justin Schaefer, and Andrew Thomas. And those guys are 6'6", 6'6", 6'4", 6'4", 6'5", and 335, 327, 335, 330, 320. There is not a guy there under 6'4", and there's not a guy under 320 pounds. Those are big guys. Typically, those five guys would start, and that would be your starters. Every time you had to swap them in and out, you would usually see a pretty good bit of drop off. Let's see if that happens. Here's the sophomores: Cade Mays, Isaiah Wilson, Jamari Sawyer, and Trey Hill. 6'6", 6'7", 6'4", 6'4", 318, 340, 325, 330. Big boys. And then finally, certainly the newest but not the least necessarily, the freshmen: Owen Condon, Clay Webb, Blake Watson, Xavier Truss, Warren McClendon, and Warren Erickson. And I'm going to leave Clay Webb out of this. I already told you he's 6'3", 290. 6'7", 6'7", 6'4", 6'4", 310, 300, 330, 320, 305. These guys are monsters. There's not going to be a whole lot of defenses that can even deal with just the starting offensive line, and they're certainly not going to be able to continue to deal with it as they swap those guys in and out. You're going to see more and more of the defenses getting wore down, especially not your prominent schools. I mean, if it's an SEC school, yeah, they're going to have some talent, but I don't care how talented you are, 330-plus pound, 6'7" guys leaning on you for 45 minutes is going to wear you out. And then you've still got the whole fourth quarter to play. So let's jump into the defensive line. The defensive line, we've got three seniors. We've got four seniors, four juniors. I can't count today. 5 seniors, 3 juniors, 3 sophomores, 3 freshmen. So what does that tell you? That tells you that there is a continued focused recruiting that's happening to put players in positions as we go along that we need to put in those positions. We need to make sure that every single signing class that we have people in place to fill in those gaps when they leave. It's along the same lines of the not rebuild but reload mentality. And when you recruit like this every single season, it makes it a lot easier to do. It's one of the things I'm really happy to see Kirby Smart doing at Georgia. It's also one of the things that we see that if a UGA back whenever Mark Richt was coaching, you saw it was such a meltdown if we lost a player that we really needed. If we needed that player and we lost him, it was pretty detrimental. Now it's to the point where if we lose a player, we're like, man, didn't want to lose that guy, but you know what? We still got plenty of guys that can play, so see you bye. And that kind of leads me into some of the other things that's happened throughout the season, and I'll get into that here in a minute. So, talking about the defensive line, there is a ton of guys on defense. That are just huge guys. We have 18 guys over 6'5", 15 guys over 6'4", and 13 guys over 6'1". 6'1", obviously not huge, but I mean these guys are all big guys. All right, so let's kind of get into some of the upcoming talent that's going to be playing at Georgia. Who's returning, who's coming back, who's going to be our playmakers. What are we looking at? Let's start with the obvious. Let's go ahead and get Jake Fromm out of the mix. Jake Fromm's going to be returning. He's going to be a junior this year. Jake Fromm's obviously going to be the starting quarterback. He's got a ton of experience now. He's played in a lot of big games. He manages the game well. He's not the most mobile quarterback in the world, but the guy can certainly pass the ball where he needs to. Now, Jake Fromm doesn't have these big, giant numbers as far as the passing game goes, and that's because, at least I think, that's because Jim Chaney was run, pass, run, pass, run, pass. Anytime you have a program that over the past 2 or 3 years has had dual 1,000 rushing yards quarterback, it's going to be extremely difficult to get plus 1,000 yards in receiving, even though Georgia was averaging most of the season somewhere around 40 points a game. In order to come up with a player who's going to have the ability to make 1,000 yards in passing, usually you're going to see that's going to be one guy. And that one guy is going to be the go-to guy, and he's going to be picking up huge yardage all the time on pass plays. And Georgia really doesn't do that. They throw the ball around a lot. They throw it to they throw it to wide receivers, obviously. We throw it to the tight ends, and we throw it to the running backs. So there's this giant mix that's going on around the field, and it's really difficult to kind of just lock one guy down and hurt the offense. Georgia was, and almost every game we played, really flexible and was able to continue to move the ball. Jake Fromm had a bad game against LSU. You saw that. Couldn't throw the ball downfield, and obviously we ended up with a bad loss there. That having been said, I continue to think that part of that was Jake Fromm, part of that was Jim Chaney, and part of that was Kirby Smart. Kirby Smart obviously has to own a part of that. And in order to do that, you've got to say, hey, we could have made better decisions. Look like you did that. This year we're going to be going with James Coley. We'll see if that changes. So, hey guys, you made it this far in the video. I want to say thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate you guys' help trying to get to 2,000 subscribers by the beginning of the season. And with only 3 weeks and 3 days to go, I really need you guys' help. So do me a favor, hit like, subscribe, share, kick it around Facebook, Instagram, wherever you happen to use social media, and I'd really appreciate it. Now, back to the show. Now let's talk about the other elephant in the room, so to speak. Let's talk about Jim Chaney. Not Jim Chaney, excuse me. Let's talk about DeAndre Swift. DeAndre Swift is a junior this year. He's obviously going to be our featured running back. You're going to see a mix of him between him and Brian Herrien. Now, Brian Herrien has been a serviceable back. The guy's always there. Is he a phenom running back? No. At least not in my opinion. Is he dependable? Yes. Can you count on this guy to get you the yards? Yes. Will he get in there? Yes. Does he stay healthy? Yes. He checks a lot of the boxes. The thing is that when you're running back at UGA, you're going to get compared to DeAndre Swift, to Sonny Michel, to Nick Chubb, to Todd Gurley, to Noshawn Marino. You're going to get compared to those guys. If you don't have a running game that is on par with those guys, they're going to say you're not the greatest running back in the world. Now, what I will say is that Brian Herrien would probably be the #1 running back in 98% of the teams out there. He's probably not going to be the primary running back at Alabama or Clemson, and that's about it. He'd be the #1 running back pretty much everywhere else. James Cook's going to be in the mix this year. He's going to be a sophomore this year. He had some carries last year. We're going to see more from that guy. Zeus is back. Looking forward to seeing what that guy can do and how he's going to perform. And that really is it for the running backs. We've got plenty of running backs. Running back position never been a problem at Georgia. We're loaded there as usual. But one of the things I wanted to talk about was the tight ends real quick. Charlie Warner and Eli Wolf. Charlie Warner had a pretty decent year last year. Have yet to see what Eli Wolf's going to do, but the guy has the right size to do the job. Now let's talk about the what I've really been wanting to talk about, which is the wide receiver position. Now, obviously, Tyler Simmons is no longer, J.J. Holloman is no longer with the team. Simmons is with the team. Tyler Simmons is with the team. J.J. Holloman's not. For those of you who don't know, I made a video on that. Go back and watch that. It gives you all the information you need to know. Not getting into that now. Probably going to see Lawrence Cager become one of the feature wide receivers at UGA. He's 6'5". He's tall. He's long. He's 220. He's fast. I think this guy is going to be somebody Georgia's going to lean on to heavily. Somebody who's able to go up at these 50-50 balls. Traditionally, Georgia has recruited like 6'1", 220, 185 wide receivers, and I've always felt like that was a problem. When you're looking at guys that, you're going out against defensive backs that are 6'3", 6'4", sometimes, you don't have the height advantage. So now your 50-50 ball all of a sudden becomes a 70-30 in their direction. So then what happens? We don't throw the ball downfield because we know we don't have the height to match up with that player. Now, Georgia's got these 6'5" players out here. There's a good opportunity for these guys to shine. Now, looking at Lawrence Cager, obviously he transferred from Miami. This guy was a 4-star player. He has 4.4, 4.5 speed, so he's pretty quick. He was ranked 18th nationally as a wide receiver. This guy averaged 17.8 yards per catch. When he caught the ball, he gained 17.8 yards at Miami. Granted, it's in the ACC, but that's still pretty blame good. Had 21 receptions last year with 6 touchdowns. That seems like a player who can catch the ball. Just, that's like 2 to 3 catches a game, depending on the game, maybe set out a game, whatever. That's pretty good. I would like to see more. I'd like to see higher numbers. I'd like to see this guy be a 1,000-yard receiver. I think if we added something like that to Georgia's offense, it would be phenomenal. Now let's talk about Matt Landers. Matt Landers was a guy who, he's a sophomore this year. This guy has wooden fingers. He can't seem to catch. I don't think he had a catch all of last year, but he's 6'5". Now, that having been said, Matt Landers should be able to, y'all excuse me, goodness gracious. Allergies is killing me right now. This year, Matt Landers has an opportunity to be a standout player. That having been said, so does Demetrius Robinson. I'm personally looking for Lawrence Cager to step up. I'm looking for George Pickens to step up instead of one of our running backs being our feature receiver returning from last year. We obviously want our running backs to catch, but we don't want our best receiver to be a running back. We want our best receiver to be a receiver, and we need to have that ability downfield. If we don't have that downfield, then it's going to be pretty tough. So, that having been said, you've got a ton of talent at University of Georgia. Kirby Smart's got a phenomenal recruiting past couple of years. Plays pretty high depending on which boards you look at. Some boards are number 1, some boards are number 2, some boards are number 3. It just depends. Coming up this year, we're looking pretty good. Probably going to pick up some more 5-star players. That's just kind of the way it's trending. There's a ton of talent that's been sitting on the bench that's coming to the forefront, and you guys are going to see them now. Keep in mind, there's 24, and I keep saying it, there's 24 five-star players active right now in the SEC East, and 22 of them are on UGA's roster. So when you're looking at these players and you're wondering, Georgia's going to have, maybe lose the floor. Listen, guys, way too much talent on the bench right now to just sit back and think this is an average Georgia team. It's clearly not. And that's not me for being a Georgia homer, because I am, but if you look at the numbers, there's nobody in their right mind who's going to say, wow, they've got 22 five-stars and all those guys are going to be a bust. If half of those guys are a bust, we're still going to have 10 to 11 five-stars who are good. If we have 3 guys that are outstanding, that's 3 top-end, wide-open five-stars. Most teams don't have that. So when you're looking at the SEC East, you're going to see a big offensive line. You're going to see a big defensive line. You're going to see UGA is going to roll over most of these teams. We are making changes to the offense, and even the players are saying that. They're excited about what's coming. I think Kirby Smart's doing a phenomenal job. I think this is probably going to be a banner year from Georgia. Probably one like you haven't seen in 40 years. I think UGA has an opportunity this year to absolutely roll, dominate, and control the East. I don't see anybody in the East that's even going to be a problem. There's several teams that are picking UGA to make a college football playoff. I can see that happening. UGA is going to have a kind of a rougher back end of the schedule than the front end of the schedule, but Georgia's schedule favors them. Even though it's got some hard teams in there, it favors them heavily. We have very few road games this year. A lot of our stuff is close to home. I think we're going to do really well this year. Not going to go through all the teams. There's no need to, because I'm in agreement with some of the other content creators out there. This looks to be a year that UGA could absolutely go 12-0. I have no doubt in my mind. Most of these games will be 14 to 21-plus point wins, just based off of the talent set we have. UGA, hey, looking at Tennessee still rebuilding. Vandy is what Vandy is. South Carolina's in a rebuild state. Florida thinks they can whatever. They've got a quarterback last year that got booed off the field. He's that bad. Booed off the field by their own fans, and then he walked down there and told them to read between the lines. I don't think that guy does well under pressure. I think Georgia's going to dial up the pressure this year. I think Kirby Smart is a smart enough coach to realize that one of the big drawbacks that we had last year was that we weren't able to create the kind of pressure in the backfield that we needed to. We could create and kind of control the environment a little bit, but we absolutely have to put quarterbacks on their behind. So I look forward to seeing that change made. And with one of the biggest key players, I think, on defense being Eric Stokes, Monte Rice, you are going to see a big, big difference in the Georgia defense. The defensive line is huge. The offensive line is huge. You got 5 stars at the running back position and quarterback position. You got 5 stars at the wide receiver position. Guys, there is absolutely no reason to doubt that UGA will dominate the East. Well, that's it for me for today, guys. I'll tell you, leave me what you think the record's going to be down in the comment section. Thanks so much for tuning in. We really appreciate it. You guys have a great day. And as always, God bless. Go Dogs.